Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Rockwood CP10HD and CP40HD pivot set. There's a lot to discuss about a pivot set because you've got top and bottom pivots, and let's go over it now. So first of all, Rockwood, their name is synonymous with good quality fit and finish material, almost without exception. Very good quality fit and finish. The CP10HD and CP40HD set that I've got here on my desk in front of me are certainly no exception. First of all, the pivots are available in different architectural finishes. I want to discuss the attributes, what you have to choose first. We have to know the finish, obviously. The set I'm going to show you is in satin chrome. We have to know the hand, and while the pivots are reversible, we're going to send them to you in a handed fashion. So we have to know the hand. We're also going to have to know the door thickness, and I'll explain why in a little bit. And we're also going to have to know the undercut, the distance from the sill to the bottom of the door. I'll explain that in a moment as well. So let me show you the constituent parts. First of all, let's start with the top pivot. Here's what the top pivot looks like, and the pivot set that I'm showing you is a right hand. So what you're viewing when watching this video is what it looks like if you were to stand on the pull side of the opening, and I'm on the push side. This is the header up here, and down here is the door. Okay. The door would, well, it would look like this. And this would be the wall. Okay. Door would swing out like this. And first impressions is that, my gosh, this is substantial material, and that it's satin chrome. This is going to be all solid brass. Well, with the exception of that pin. That pin's not solid brass. And that Teflon washer, which I'll show you, is not solid brass either. This top pivot, with its constituent screws, wood screws, weighs 1.82 pounds. It's extremely thick. It's extremely heavy. Let's go over the dimensions of this, and I'm going to now separate these parts because for all intents purposes the bottom portion, the header portion and door portion are dimensionally the same. Let's go over that now. Overall length, 4.5 inch. Overall height, 1 inch. Thickness is 1/2 inch. Okay. Now, these are known as offset pivots because the vertical axis of pivoting is offset from the face of the door. This is a 3/4 offset. Knowing the thickness of the door is important to Rockwood such that they can manufacture this pivot and maintain that 3/4 inch dimension from the face of the door. Let's say the face of my hand is the face of the door. From the face of the door to the axis of pivoting, it's going to be 3/4 inch. Dimension from the top part of my hand, that face, to the axis of pivoting would be 3/4 inch. Okay. Moving on with the top pivot, you've got that Teflon washer. The bottom has one too. I'll show that to you in a moment. And you've got your pin. It's installed into the other arm of the top pivot, or the spindle. That is removable, and that's the only way in which these two items are different. One has a set screw, one does not. It's completely reversible in the sense that with an Allen wrench, you can remove the set screw, and this goes hand in hand with the installation aspect as well. Loosen that set screw, pull your pin out, and that pin is like a hinge pin that has a non-removable feature. It's got a groove cut in it. This has a V groove, and when that set screw, which has a point, seats into that groove, it's stuck, it's done, it's installed. So, installation, you're going to mortise the door and header. I want to show that to you in a little bit more detail. One moment. So giving you a closer look at those pivots makes you realize that again, they're identical except for that set screw. You can turn that over, use it for the a left-hand door application as seen here if you're standing on the pull side, or that right-hand application. Okay, so you're getting the idea that it's reversible. Now, since we're talking about the top pivot, we'll talk about machining in a moment because I want to talk about that at the same time with the bottom pivot. But the installation is such that when you get everything, we're kind of jumping ahead, when you get everything installed and properly machined in right location, plumb bob, you've got the axis of pivoting perfect. The hardware is attached to the header, the hardware is attached to the top and bottom of the door. Set it onto the bottom pivot, tip it into place. Well, you're going to be tipping it into place, basically. And then you would just insert this pin up through the bottom of your door portion, which has got the set screw in it, okay, up into your top portion, like that. And that's going to secure the opening, and obviously this is going to be up top ready to receive that, okay? And you're going to secure that set screw down. And I'm going to put it back together now so we can talk about machining after we talk about the bottom pivot. Okay, let me show you the bottom pivot. Same excellent quality fit and finish on something as you would expect, as I expect from Rockwood at the least. Here's the bottom portion, okay? Again, shown to you as a right hand. You're seeing it as a left-hand reverse. You're on the pull side. I'm on the push side. Substantial. 1/2 inch thick, 1 inch wide, 4.5 inches long. Those dimensions are the same. I won't put a tape measure on it again. Face of the door to the center line of the pivoting axis, 3/4 inch. That bottom arm comes off, and I'll use it as a example in terms of showing you the way to machine the door, top and bottom, and the header. Great quality fit and finish. Teflon washer at the bottom. Bushing, very important. This is where it comes into relationship with the undercut of the door that we must know. All of that put together, when this is mortised flush to the bottom of the door, that's a fixed dimension from the bottom of the floor, the top of the floor, to the bottom of the arm. That's a specific dimension now. This application has a standard 3/4 inch undercut. Okay, you've got, you could cheat that a little bit by mortising it up or letting it hang down a little bit, but the bottom line is the reason we need to know that is so that this dimension we're determining when the pivot is manufactured, okay? And that's what part of that roll that collar is going to be doing right there. So I'm going to separate that again. We've already measured the top portion. Okay, here we go. I'm going to remove the bushing and the Teflon collar. Bottom plate, it's got your pin, which also coincidentally is held in with a set screw. Probably just for machining, manufacturing purposes would be my guess. Two and a half inches wide, 2.5 inches deep. Thickness of the material, 1/4 inch, quite substantial. Solid brass. You can even see that it's brass on the back side of it. Everything here is brass, with the exception of these pins, and I'm going to say that the pins are stainless, top and bottom pins. So now, mortising. This is a simple two-step process. You have to mortise a rectangle in the bottom of your door, 1/2 inch to accommodate a 1/2 inch, 4.5 inch by 1 inch. I keep throwing those dimensions out there. Let me confirm that. Yeah, I mean 4.5. It looks like it's marginally under. 1 inch, and this is the bottom pivot again, 1/2 inch thick. Yeah. You're going to want to mortise just a rectangle to the bottom of the door, you know, to accommodate this portion. That's step 1. You need to get that mortised to the door at the proper depth in terms of looking at the door in elevation, such that you, in the most critical dimension, the most critical aspect is getting a plumb bob, you know, to make sure that your center, your axis of pivoting is the same. Let's imagine we're now talking about the top pivot. You mortise this to the top of the door. You got your step 1. Step 2 is going to be breaching the face of the door to allow the arm of the top pivot to come out. You can do that by hand, you know, with a chisel or however. I usually do those with a chisel because doing all the work in the top and bottom of the door with a router is the preferred way to go, and squaring out the corners. But doing some kind of work like this to the face, I like a real nice sharp chisel to make one sort of preparation to the face of the door. And what you're doing there is you're chiseling the face. You're going to breach the face, and like I said, I like to use a very sharp chisel and just do it by hand. I don't want my router to get away from me and get to the face of the door. So once you've got that installed to the top of the door and to the header, you can line that up, and you know you're going to have a plumb, or you know what you do is what I've done is you attach this to the header, then drop your plumb bob down and secure it off to the top hole here, and this is in the header. Then you'll be able to mark the floor where the center line of your base plate pivot spindle has to be located. And once you've got that right on, plumb bob between those 2 points. I don't have that shown correctly. Sorry. There we go. Okay. You're going to make sure that those 2 points line up perfectly. It actually looks like this, of course. Okay. Once that axis of pivoting you've got nailed down, then you're going to have a point of reference. However, consider this. Making the identical preparations at the top and bottom of the door is going to fix those locations as well, and transposing them to the header and to the floor, you know, in theory is certainly good as well. The point of the matter is the axis of pivoting has got to be plumb. You don't want the door kicked in or out, you know, not level either way. You don't want that door creeping open. You don't want it creeping closed. Plus, you know, you've got tight margins around the header of your door and frame and the jambs, whether it's a pair of doors or a jamb, and you'll see any sort of error in machining immediately at that point. So you'll want this to be, you know, you want to make sure that it's machined correctly. A lot of people who do this, it's as easy as brushing their teeth. A lot of people who have done this, it's their first time. And I'm just saying to those people in particular, make sure you get that right, or it will not look nice when you're done. Okay, so the preparation for your bottom spindle arm, top spindle arm, and then the part that goes on the header, okay, going to be very similar preparations. Rockwood is including only wood screws with this stuff, so you might need to do something else at the floor. You know, it's unusual. I've never sold these for installation in a steel door, but there'd be no reason that you couldn't, I suppose. Looking at the rest of the extended description shows a weight capacity. A 200-pound capacity is what they're saying for these HD version pivots, and that 200-pound capacity is going to handle, most standard duty commercial applications, residential applications that you could really get involved in the sense that you know, what door is going to be greater than you know, 200 pounds. You know, your standard wood door, 3070 wood door, using rough, you know, math, you know, you're looking at about 5.5 pounds per square foot for an 1 3/4 solid core door. So, you know, these pivots are going to handle a lot of those applications. If I haven't already said it, there is a link to the product brochure below this video showing this pivot and its sister related products. Reversible in the sense that, you know, this plate here can be installed this way, you know, or this way, I should say. Okay, so there's no problem what corner you end up putting that in. These arms, countersunk on both sides. You can just flip them over. Installation's going to go either way. Again, very important that we know we can't manufacture these without knowing the door thickness, the door undercut, because they are literally made to order. Now, regarding your undercut, very important to consider what that's going to be. And what I mean is the dimension from the bottom of the door to where the pivot is going to sit is, as we said earlier, really important to know. However, keep in mind what sort of flooring condition you might have as well. If you've got just a subfloor, you've got a certain dimension there, but now keep in mind, oh gosh, I'm going to add a 3/8 of padding and then 1/2 inch of carpeting, or hardwood floor, or you know, tile, or whatever the case might be. Keep that in mind, that we're going to need to make sure that the dimension from where your door is going to be and where that floor is going to work. So if you need help working through that, let us know and we'll work that out together with you. There's a link to, there's an image shown below, the handing chart. Left hand, right hand are shown, left hand reverse, right hand reverse are shown as well. And you know, like I said, Rockwood is a name synonymous with excellent quality fit and finish, really second to none. And these pivots are just no exception in that. They look gorgeous. People buy these because they're unique. They make a statement because they're so thick, very modern in design. You really can't go wrong with this material. I could probably talk longer if you like. If you have any questions on the Rockwood CP10HD, CP40HD pivot set, heavy duty pivot set, or any other Rockwood product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.